Finally get to use the gavel. Good afternoon, everyone. It is Tuesday, July 5th at 5 o'clock, and I would like to call to order the meeting of the St. Croix County Board of Supervisors. We do not have anyone with us today for our invocation, so I'd like to ask you to stand and join me in a moment of silence, please. And join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, time for roll call. Here we go. Okay, there we go. Everybody's accounted for and present. So next up we have public comment. We have quite a few people that would like to address the board tonight, so we will keep our comments to 3 minutes if you can, and please be as specific as you can. We'll start out with Roy Schoberg, who has an introduction for us.
There's a lot of new faces here and a few older ones, so nice to see you all. My name's Roy Schoberg. I'm a resident of the city of Hudson, and I'm a retired lawyer. And the other day, I just turned 70, and I got a bunch of lottery tickets. And so with those lottery tickets, as I scratch them off, anytime I win $100,000, it's going to go right to CASA. So count on that, maybe. So CASA is court-appointed, special advocates. And we have a incoming special advocate right over there. So what CASA is trying to do is trying to have 50 volunteers helping out with neglected and abused children. So any child that's off either in foster care or having to live with a grandma or some other distant relative, we're another set of eyes and ears, and we can go before the court. We end up getting sworn in before the court and giving the judges information that they're sorely needing. Because as we all know, our caseworkers are really overworked, and there's only a few of the guardian ad litems. In fact, there's only one. So we have about 90 kids out there in need. And so we're hoping to supply over the next couple years as many as 50 trained volunteers. Well, I can't do it myself, so we started a board, a nonprofit board, and this is my 3 minutes, and then he gets his 3 minutes, just so you know. I know the rules. So anyway, so we have a nonprofit board consisting of 6 people, a couple of attorneys, and a couple of more respectable people. And so this group of people, what we tried to do is get an executive director, all trained in, and then that executive director is the one that trains our new advocates. And the new advocates take about 30 hours of solid training, and I just delivered one of the training manuals over here to Sherry, so there's the book. So, and then I'm going to go through the training myself again too. So it's going to be a world of good understanding about the issues that our children that are living in difficult situations have to face. So our new executive director, Sean Kinsella, comes to us from Rochester, and he's got quite a background. And enough about me. Sean, please introduce yourself.
Thanks, Roy. I'm Sean Kinsella. I have 30 years of experience in not-for-profit management, and I'm also a trained counselor. My last job was working with the mentally ill through the National Association of Mental Illness, also known as NAMI. So I just want to introduce myself. You'll probably see me around. I am ready to hit the ground running, and I will be knocking on doors to solicit funds and to talk to people about the need and really about the service that we can render really for free to the county. So I'm looking forward to meeting you all and getting to know you on a personal level. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Roy. It's great to have you with us, Sean. Okay, we'll move on now to Jeannie Castro.
Hi, board members, St. Croix County board members, greetings. My name is Jeannie Castro. I reside at 1806 Willow Drive in Hudson, Wisconsin. I have lived in this community for 28 years, and I serve on the Tour of Christmas Homes Committee. I've been doing that for 23 of them. So I love Hudson. I love what how it serves our community, and how we preserve the natural resources around us. I'm coming to you today because of the area behind the government center, right around here, that it neighbors the YMCA, the schools, and the parks, and it's been a thoroughfare for students traveling from the elementary school and the junior high or the middle school to their homes, to the Y. I know my kids would go to the Y after school to the skate park and use that greenway path. I also see runners and joggers, dog walkers. I see thousands of people that use that area, and so many of them that I've been talking to in the last couple of weeks have known nothing about the government center expansion. And I know that you guys put word out, but because of the way things are now, and we don't have the paper like we used to, and we're not as informed, I'm not sure that everyone got the information. So I'm reaching out to you. I know that some of the project of the $80 million expansion has been started, and I know some of it is in the design works. I've reached out to the DNR and the wetlands organizations just to find out more about our land and how precious it is, and how they would go about it, and preserving wildlife, endangered species, and also like providing health and wellness for our community by letting us to continue to use that space. Perhaps in the design of the center, getting more pathways going, and then also there were a couple of red flags for me and for some of the people I talked to about the solar panels. And I think it's great to have a natural resource energy source, but to put it on our natural resources and ruin that land or have like an unsightly solar panel is not ethical in the way I look at things. I think we could have those and make use of that energy source, but put it on the roof or out at the business park. I also am addressing the runoff with the asphalt and the parking lots, and I urge us to build as much as we can on the existing footprint by putting in, I know we have a parking garage, but topping that off with a ramp so that also like in the middle of winter, our employees here aren't traveling like across the parking lot in the winter. It would be so practical for everybody, and then to make it like, in my perfect world, like wildlife gardens around the facility and make it look really spectacular, make it be a beacon for county centers all over the state or the Midwest. We really have a great potential to do something really fantastic and include like bike paths that connect with, bike paths all over. So I just urge us to do this in a way that is really ecologically friendly and good to our community. Is my time up? Okay, thank you so much, and I know we can make this super great. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Barbara Peterson.
My name is Barbara Peterson, and I live at Bright Keys of Oak Ridge, which is the multi-housing development that's right north of this. My concern has been is since you have started the building of the storage facility, the vibrations are affecting where I live. And I was just wondering if anybody has taken any of that into consideration of what it's doing to the soil and stability for all those units that are north of the construction. That's all.
Thank you. And next we have Angela Allington.
Hi, I'm Angela Allington. My family built here in 1965, and I have been a resident off and on since then, living all over the country. I also live just north here, and I have one of the units that is closest to the walking path. I think I got a notice early spring that there was going to be a garage built. My assumption of a garage is maybe, I don't know, four spots. I'm not quite sure, but I did not attend the meeting because I thought, well, it's just a garage, right? Since then, it has started over here. Everything but probably 3 trees have been mowed down. And also on the government website, it said that no view would be impacted from any residential unit. I've taken pictures from my windows. I've taken pictures from my patio. It's not a pretty view. And I was just wondering, are there going to be trees, large trees built, so we don't have to see the back of buildings or whatever? It's just really ruined our view over here. Also, the dust while they're moving the soil back and forth, I don't know if there needs to be some water sprayed or something. Each day when I come out, my patio furniture is all brown. Everything's brown. I've changed my, what do you call that? Furnace filters. And our air conditioning units are also sitting on that side over there. So that's, and also the pounding and the vibration starts at 7:15 in the morning. If not going hard at it at 7:30. So it's just kind of some concerns of our life over there right now. I understand building needs to go on, but just a few things to take into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Julie Hefner.
Good afternoon. My name is Julie Hefner. I work for Lakes Area Realty. I live at 1517 Northridge Drive. I've been a resident of Hudson for over 20 years. I also want to address the expansion. I want you to know that I have walked these trails every day for 16 years. I've explored the woods with my children, walked my dogs, used it as a shortcut to the middle school, to the YMCA. For training, sledding hills, running trails, photography sessions, the basics and backdrop for homework, identifying tree species, birds, flowers, plant identification, imaginative play, naming every trail, including Stag Point, where we saw a magnificent buck, Blueberry Hill, where the blueberry bushes grow, and Possum Trail, where we learned firsthand what playing possum really means. So, we named this entire place the Storybook Forest. We have run into citizens here who on skis, on snowshoes, mountain bikes, with walking sticks and running, jogging, walking with their families, their pups, enjoying the solitude and the sanctity of the nature that it provides. It is the place I go to do my prayer every day, every single day. I've spent countless hours on this acreage. If it went away tomorrow, it really wouldn't affect me personally all that much. My kids are grown. My mom, my last dog. My 89-year-old walking partner is, well, she's 89. But it would affect countless other families. Children, people for generations to come. I don't want you to think that my input is about me. It's not. I've enjoyed this land immeasurably, but others have yet to even discover it. This is it. This is it. The last piece of land in Hudson that hasn't been hacked up, built on, divided up, planned for, or paved. There's no more. This is it. So be the committee, please be the people, be the committee whose names go down in history as the people who preserved at least a portion of this land, set it aside, earmarked it as parkland for the Hudsonites for generations to come. Don't be the group of people who sold out for yet another development. I understand and accept that this is county land and the county needs to expand. I have no issue with the expansion. I have a big issue with this road. There is no reason for a new road to be built from this expansion out to Vine. What it will do, it's unnecessary, and it will divide up this space. It will make it easy for them to develop on either side of that road. It will lead to incremental encroachment on the area, and it will change the entire feel, sound, the quiet, the sanctity of the whole space. So I am respectfully, but very emphatically, advocating that you do not build this road, that you do not push the project any further than the eastern ridge above the Big Valley, that you preserve a significant portion of this land as protected parkland, and that you create some additional trails through the northwestern portion to compensate for what we're losing with the current project. So I also want to say, if you need to turn this land over to the city, I think they're going to be much more open than they were the first time that was approached many years ago. And I also want to say that I am willing and available to work on a committee to help protect this land for future generations and a solution that will work for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, any other public comment? Don't be shy. We love to hear your opinions. Any other public comment? Public comment. Okay. We will move on to our consent agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Supervisor Osnes, second. Supervisor Counter. We're ready to vote. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to a presentation. I think we've all been looking forward to this today, and so I'm going to turn over to Ken for a little background first.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Long. And I do appreciate all of the public comment that we had tonight as we're working through this design. We are still, some of the issues that you bring up are still flexible enough to be addressed during this design. Maybe not everything, but some of it is. So really, though, I wanted to give the background note before I turned it over to staff and the architects, in that why this project was approved by the county board and funded. So St. Croix County is the second fastest growing county in Wisconsin. This building was originally built in 1993. The population of St. Croix County in 1993 was 50,000 people. The building was projected to last 20 years. It's lasted almost 30 years, so we've done a good job of reusing the space that we had and extending the life of the building. And the population of St. Croix County in that time has almost doubled, so the population of St. Croix County is now at 93,000 people. We're projected by 2040 to have a population of 119,000. So the more people there are in the county to serve, the more space it takes to serve those people. So it's really just a matter of, as the county grows, county facilities grow to accommodate that growing population. And really that's, when you boil it down to, that's all it is. More space to serve the more people that continue to move here. This project actually started many years ago. We did our first, probably not even our first, but maybe the second space study back in 2012. We did another one in 2019. We updated that one in 2020. And We've come to the conclusion that how the building was going to be built, it was going to be an addition instead of a separate building. We looked at all of those issues. We looked at the 79 acres that the county has and the impact that would have on that 79 acres. We did look at, did the county need to keep all of that 79 acres, or would we sell some of it off? And the county board made the decision that this is our third government center location. We want it to be our last location. So we're just going to keep the 79 acres that we have, and if it takes another 150 years before we need to use more of the land, then so be it. At least we have the land to use. And so there was no intent to sell any of the parcel off for any other uses. So that's how we got to where we are right now. And I'm going to turn it over. Are you up, Jim? Or is Chris up? Who's up next? All right. So Facilities Director Jim Ellsbury, he'll introduce our team, and we're going to go over what this preliminary design looks like and get your initial feedback on how the project is looking. So thank you.
Good evening. If I may address one thing, there will be trees to block the view of the building.
That's what I was just telling her.
So we took some bad ones out, we're putting nice ones in. So the original was back in 2007. We started looking at adding on to the building and what we were going to do to increase the size. And you know, government's great. It's a lot of engineering and a lot of time spent looking at things. Well, we finally got to where we're doing something with all those studies, which is really good. We need to. We've had HCM Architects. We're our architect of choice. And then also we're using Samuel's Group out of Wausau, Wisconsin to be our construction manager. Chris Boss is the county project manager. He's got a lot of experience with HVAC, so he's learning more about the building process and how to develop space and how to work with a bunch of department heads and county board supervisors. So be kind. We've been meeting with the building committee on a regular basis and updating them. I know Bob has reached out a couple times and asked some questions, and we get him the answers back, and he takes a little deep breath and says, okay. So we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep getting him so he's okay. So in the meantime, we've got Josh from HCM, and we have Tim. Tim is one of the original partners in the firm, and he's also going to be the guy who's responsible for the project. So a lot of times when you hire an architect, they come on really big, and then all of a sudden they pass it on to a junior architect, and you don't see the guy anymore. Tim is a partner. Tim is the guy that'll be here from now on. His name's on the building. His name will be on the designs. He'll be the guy that everybody will go to. So that's good for us. It helps us get the product we're looking for in a manner that we're looking for it. So without further ado, Tim and Josh.
Thank you, Jim. Good evening to all, board supervisors, board chair, and staff, and the general public. What we're giving today is a big overview of where we're at since we really undertook this project the end of March. And a lot of work's gone in. Where we're at today and what we've done is we have met with all of the department heads and to determine their growth needs for 5, 10, and 20 years. We've put that back into space matrices, got those back to them, and so then what that has done is it's told us really what's deficient in terms of space needs today and where we need to be in 5, 10, and 20 years. We've taken that all. We had a bunch of design review meetings with staff to sort of basically outline the building in terms of big blocks of space where they go. And then from that, we created what's called a schematic design package. And that was really the end of May, and that was a big, broad overview of site plan development, floor plan development, and exterior building imagery and look. And each process informs the other, and we keep moving it forward. We are meeting weekly with the project team, which includes not only all the design disciplines, but facilities and administration, and board supervisor Counter has been at a lot of those meetings. And then we've had a couple presentations to the building subcommittee, which has been on a monthly basis we're presenting back. So what you're seeing today, they saw about 2 weeks ago. So a little bit of a preface there. The building addition, as Administrator Witt indicated, is there is additions to the south, a large addition, a smaller addition to the north, and then a complete renovation of the existing 3 levels of the existing government center. And that is all part of the project to make this the next 20 years. So I'm going to run through some imagery. I'm going to try to keep this to about 10 to 15 minutes, but if you have questions, please ask them or save them till the end. We've got lots of shots on the exterior, and we have some site and building plans. This is a view of the proposed project looking from the entrance at the southwest. And I appreciate all the public comments, and really the idea was to keep the site development and building development as much as we could within the existing ring road. And we'll see that in the site plans. But here you can see the major addition onto the south, and instead of it orienting north and south like the existing building, it is turned east and west. So once again, we're compressing the building in that north-south direction. It is, and this has been worked through with the building subcommittee and, of course, the design team. It is an interpretation of a more contemporary, more light-filled office building, if you will, because the south addition is going to be the government center, administrative, and public service functions. The existing government center levels 1 and 2 will be dedicated entirely to the courts. The small addition on the north is really, the lower level is facilities, a loading dock, and then above that it also becomes a judicial support space. The idea was to use materials, the matching brick, the matching limestone, in a very ordered and civic fashion. Really, civic architecture has a real sense of rhythm and proportion, and you can see that as it comes across the front. The building on the east side, as you're aware of, is a 2-story building, and it steps down to a 3-story building as it goes to the west. This would be a shot from the northeast corner, and really what we have on this first, and this is jury assembly, a large jury assembly, new facility for that, for the clerk of court to run those operations, and then up above we have victim witness next to CSA, the large group up there. Existing main building, new entrance, and the new entrance and the lobby space are really what divide the judicial center from the administrative government center. So some quick overview on the plans. This is the ground level, and you can see the addition really is everything to the south of this red line. But we have secure parking, roughly mid-50s in terms of number of spaces for the sheriff and the judges, and potentially some additional spaces for other officials. But this is really dedicated. Everything you see in brown is really dedicated to the St. Croix County Sheriff's Department. New office and all of the back support spaces in through here. New evidence storage, enlarged labs, all the storage and functions they need. To the north, it's in pink, but new loading docks, all the things that we need for a facility, loading freight elevator, large storage areas, and then what you see in yellow are considered common functions that support the entire building, whether be it storage or conference room. This is the first level. This is on the east side is the new main entry, security checkpoint. The blue, once again, on the first floor will all be brand new courtrooms. New courtroom transfer, inmate transfer, judges' chambers, and jury rooms on the back side. And then we've got register of probate and clerk of courts, and then some large common rooms here. And we've got some additional conference rooms, and then here you can see the large jury assembly room and support space. And then we've got what you see in the green are all the public service spaces, county clerk, treasurer, finance, or register of deeds, and then community development. New county boardroom, enlarged and more off the main lobby. And then we've got support space for justice support, I'm sorry. And then a potential space on the west for the DCA. Second level is, once again, all in blue. We've got 4 courtrooms that exist, and we've got victim witness, got district attorney, and then we've got support space up here, and then through the back, once again, judges' chambers and jury assembly, the court supervisors in through this area, which they currently are housed. And then this is all the administration, be it human resources, corporate counsel, and administration, IT, server room, and then all the yellow being common conference room, training rooms for use by all staff, and then some mechanical space, and then a potential future tenant space. So we've come from large blocks of space to now some defined use and putting in the 20-year growth needs and spaces. This is just an identifier to show, this is off a previous master plan that was done in 2019 that showed a future expansion to the jail off in this area and potentially new Sallyport concept in this area. And this is roughly where our addition is and roughly where our addition is, just showing what that could happen in the long-term growth pattern. But once again, pretty much within the ring road with some modifications. This is the site plan as proposed. Conceptually, loading dock, working off the existing ring road. And this is the addition, and you can see how we're expanding parking, or just basically filling out parking on the west side. Of course, a lot of that is being eaten up by this addition. And then wrapping around parking to the south. This is the existing access road to the park to the east, and per the city, plus the need to get some of this parking closer to the building, we're moving, you can see the existing access road is here and moving it down roughly 100 feet. This is a future potential parking area, and then this parking is shown really as proof of parking to show that we meet city requirements. This is the road that people are talking about that would go down to Vine, and once again, this was laid out to avoid this delineated wetland, but it's kind of shown in that location. And the whole reason for that road was to provide a second means of egress, really, for public safety during times that Carmichael is backed up at the school. It's a line item in the project. It's preliminary at this point, so it's definitely good that you're here speaking about it. And then you can see here, you can see this is a little bit cleaned up, a little bit simpler to read, showing some of the revised parking areas. The existing parking area to the east will stay the same. There is some potential it could expand out to this new entrance road. And then I think we're showing some, there'll be greatly enhanced landscaping around to time out with what's there. We've got a nice mature trees that are ringing this front walkway. We'll maintain those, but we'll be adding things along the building and creating planting areas as we go from north to south, and you can see some of the planting ideas here. There is a proposed potential solar array, and one thought is that it would cover at least 2 of these parking bays so that it could provide shade during the summer and could potentially be used then right for car charging at some point. And once again, that's a line item in the project, and hopefully it can be maintained. And then just some exterior shots. Once again, this is the new front entry. Once again, light filled, the idea that the glass separates the 2 buildings, matching the brick, matching the stone. That would be from the very front east side. This is more to the north, looking back to the south. how the elements tie in together. This is the south side, and once again, we're stepping the building down, and so what we're doing is we're recessing this base, pushing it back in, and this is access to the secure parking in and out, a staff entrance here, but once again, trying to create a rhythm of structure and material, and then by pushing in that base, we can use a darker, richer brick that actually is one of the colors of the model brick of the existing building, so that that can time in and be complementary, but kind of recess it and be a base to the building. This is a shot from the southwest, so at this point the building becomes a 3-story building, and you can see this would be the sheriff's area, this would be office space above and office space above. And this is a view from the parking area that will be off the sheriff's area, and then a walkway into a new sheriff's entry off that west side. And then this is a shot from the northwest, looking back to this is the back of the existing building, this is the jail, and this will be now an enclosed loading dock, and then access to facilities down here, and then spaces above, jury assembly, and then court space above, or court support spaces. So I'll also pull up just a quick video that kind of, some people, it really tends to help to have a 3D, but sort of come into here. So you can see we're going to see how the buildings all tie together. I think that's a good shot of how the base is recessed and set in. Staff entrance, which loads right into a main corridor of the building. Sheriff's down on the ground level. And then maintaining the courtyard between the sheriff and the jail access. We'll return back to the starting point. So that's where we're at today. We are, like I said, we finished a schematic design package. We're starting to get numbers in on that from Samuel's group, the construction manager. We're evaluating those numbers and stay on budget. He's put together a really broad overview on a schedule of when we would start construction, and hopefully some of the construction can start happening later summer, early fall, some of the utility work, so we can get that work done. But really well over a 2-year construction schedule. Got to finish the addition, move people out so that we can renovate this facility floor by floor or large chunks by large chunks. So that's where we're at today. I know it was a pretty fast overview, a lot of things to take in, but I'm happy to ask questions, answer questions if you have them.
Supervisor Cook?
Question is, this property that says proposed tenants. There's a space that says proposed tenant space. Are we going to have a McDonald's there?
No. The county has been talking to the Department of Corrections as one potential tenant, or Public Defenders as another potential tenant. Those were just 2 large groups that may be advantageous to be in this building.
On the video and in the documents in our packet, it looks like, I think we're basically at a preliminary landscape plan at this point, right?
Yes.
And so I'm just looking at the video and through the document here and just kind of seeing the turf. I'm wondering, with the addition of the added parking space, has there been conversation about potentially keeping some of that more wild along the edge, or more of like a rain garden or things like that, or in the spaces on the sides of the building, that way we could probably reduce the spraying that we had to do on grass, or just kind of, replace some of that existing wild area that's being removed.
It's a good question. Yes, there will be, and there's a bit of a disconnect even from the conceptual landscape plans to the model, because for a variety of reasons. When you start to put vegetation into models, it really, really makes a big file, so it would be hard for us to play it. So really, the model is more about the building, and as we develop the exterior work, the site work and landscaping, that can be added, whether it's in stills or in the model. But at this point, we know that the city has specific requirements. We know that the county has even enhanced desire to do, first of all, stormwater management. We have to meet the watershed requirements, but we want to go beyond that. And we also want to use landscape to buffer the building and filter water.
Supervisor Adams?
Thank you, Chair. In the construction, I happened to be standing outside while the northern area was being cleared. Did not see any water sprayed to help with dust. Who manages that to help our residents not have that in their yards?
A good question. That is the responsibility of the contractor and the construction manager for that project. So I made a note to give them a call, that they should be in dry conditions, wetting, because what they're doing is they're bringing in soil for fill and they're compacting it, and all that work creates dust. So they should be monitoring that and managing with water.
Supervisor Rambert?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Regarding the roof, is it a flat roof, and was there any, are we going to do any solar up there, or any furnaces or anything on the roof? I know they're always problematic, but flat roofs are usually issues.
It is a sloped, but it is a flat roof. I mean, it's tapered to roof drains. And we talked a lot about putting the solar on the roof, which has a lot of advantages, but it also has a lot of disadvantages because you typically need to anchor to the structure, which then you have penetrations in your roof, which then when you re-roof and do roofing work, you have to take things off and on. So right now, we're looking at putting the solar array over parking because, number one, it shades the cars, and it also is a good promotion of the county's efforts to provide renewable energy, and it's just easier to maintain and work with. But that right now is a budget number based on so many kVA of generation. So we're sort of got that in a budget to sort of say what would that cost, and then where would the best place be. So once again, that's in a preliminary early stage of location and size.
Other questions? Supervisor Shirley.
Thank you, Chair. A couple questions. Looks like we're adding 4 courtrooms on the first floor. I know we're in the need of one additional one. What are we going to do with the other 3 in the meantime until we need those other 3 courtrooms? And then my second question is that road to the south, you said was a line item. Do you know what that line item cost is right now?
I'll start with the last question. We just started to get numbers in last Thursday, Friday. It looks, remains to be seen, but it's a significant portion of money. And we even looked at what if we just put it in as a temporary construction access so that we could alleviate any issues on Carmichael during construction to a full city spec. So we'll get numbers, and those will be shared with you as well. But once again, that's an item that sort of is up there as, we called it an alternate. If the money's there, it may happen. If not, it's planned for at some point and doesn't have to be installed. Your first question was regarding the courtrooms. Yes. We have 4 judges, and we will always have the 4 courtrooms. We're looking at finishing a 5th so that a 5th circuit judge could be brought in. And we have 2 court commissioners. They could use 2 of the courtrooms if needed. There's also space for potentially where they can be located if it's a smaller need like family court. But a lot of times what people are doing, they expand, they want to plan for it, and they may even just shell out the space and not finish it off to save the money today, and then put it in another capital project in the future when another judge is imminent.
Other questions? Supervisor Coner.
Just wanted to bring up one of the comments was made was on the rental, and one of the thoughts was when we were going through and talking about this on the project was that we're looking at having the space so we have the shell kind of like what we're discussing here, and having a rental space works to our benefit because it puts we're working with some of the different organizations that can be put here and help defray some of the costs. But then as our needs grow in the future, it gives us the opportunity to have growth without re-expanding again.
Other questions, comments? Okay. Well, thank you very much, Tim. Really appreciate your presentation, and I'm sure we'll have more information to come.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I think we're ready for our financial update from our county administrator.
Yeah, the financial report is in your packet, started on page 24. Nothing exciting to report on the revenues and expenses. They're where we would expect them to be through May of 2022. I think we're looking good compared to budget. When we get to page 28, it looks at our capital projects. So you can see all the capital projects. So year to date so far on this government center expansion, we've spent $90,000. So I think that's money well spent so far out of the $79 million project. The other capital projects are looking good too. We're staying on track with those. As with the ARPA projects on the next page, page 29, you can see some of those ARPA projects have closed out, and some of them are still ongoing. Are there any questions though on the financial reports that I could answer for you? All right, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our business items. First up is amendment to Chapter 79 of the St. Croix County Code of Ordinances regarding all-terrain and utility terrain vehicle route ordinance. First look for a motion regarding the resolution. Supervisor Otino, second. Supervisor Van Summeren. Discussion. Could I call on Supervisor Otino for a little background on this issue?
Yes, thank you. Basically, we approved this, if I understand it correctly, and it didn't get through all of the technical requirements. And correct me if I'm wrong. And so we basically voted on it again, and it approves 2 of the ATV, UTV routes that were requested. I believe it was a total of 5. Am I right, Robbie? 5, I think it was that. And the way that works is, that not only the transportation director looks at that, the sheriff's department, safety, look at accidents in the area and things like that. So that's what goes into approving or disapproving of any of these routes.
Supervisor Hanson?
I'm hoping to get a second for this. I'd like to propose an amendment to omit lines 29 through 33, thereby removing item G and item H, County Highway K and County Highway M. Both of those, I had notes that they were not recommended by the Highway Commissioner, and I know these areas very, very well. County Highway M runs right next to my mother-in-law's farm. County Highway K is just down the road from where I live. And they're both extraordinarily busy highways with high traffic counts and well, let me go on about that. Let's see if I get a second on this.
I'll second that.
Yeah. Yes, I was just going to ask. Robbie, can you come up and address Supervisor Hansen's concerns and the amendment to the resolution?
Sure, this one got a little complicated. So to speak to Mr. Otino's, this did go through the former Transportation Committee, and our department is recommending approval of these routes. For full transparency, we do a complete independent review. What I mean by that is we have engineering staff review it, and then I review it, and we coordinate with the sheriff. These two are somewhat challenging applications, but we're approving them. Our recommendation is based on a pragmatic approach to this. County Highway M, I'll cite as a specific example. Polk County is fully open for ATV use on their system. So if those of you that are familiar with County Highway M, it stops at the county line. There's no town road. There's no adjacent roads. It's just an imaginary demarcation line. So what is happening is ATV use is coming out of Polk County, and they're just utilizing County Highway M right now. And that's going to be a pretty difficult situation to stop, in which Polk County is open. I would rather have the appropriate signage up in this case and make it as safe as we can. We have a policy that permits the department to pull said restrictions and take down the signs and remove the route, take it back to the committee if there are further problems. We did coordinate with the sheriff. We're in agreement on that approach. So the other mitigating factor there is there's a short stretch of 55 and then it goes down to 35 within Star Prairie's village limits. The village of Star Prairie is in favor of this route as well. So while there are challenges there, and we saw the paperwork in which we traditionally, there are certain metrics we would probably move against this, we are recommending approval of this one. County Highway K is another situation in which County Highway K's volume is just under. I will tell you that this trail will be revisited and looked at again in the future as New Richmond continues to grow. So we are doing some corridor analyses there. At this time, it does meet what we would consider metrics. Greg and I, Greg Haig is the county engineer. We worked together closely on this one. He initially recommended against it. We talked it through and he felt at this point we were okay with moving forward with recommending for approval. As New Richmond grows to the east, this will have to be revisited. The problem is right now for this, we're having the same issue. People coming out of Polk and they're trying to get south. And unless they go all the way over to, I believe it's 210th, there's not another crossing of 64 that can be completed safely. So while I will firmly stand by I'm not going to tell you that I recommend it if I don't. These two are begrudgingly recommended by the Highway Department.
Questions, discussion on the amendment to the resolution? Supervisor Hansen.
I'm going to stand by this. I think that there's a lot of pressure by a very well-organized state association, ATV, UTV association, and I do know that they've been putting a fair amount of pressure on each of the townships. I also know that there's a very well-organized association in Polk County, and that they've been very effective in opening up the roads, the county highways in Polk County. That doesn't mean that we need to go along with that and not protect the greater good and the public safety here in St. Croix County. We have a much larger population and we're growing. It'll be a lot easier to do the right thing at this moment than to take away a privilege once we've granted it. These are rapidly growing populations. Star Prairie is projected to have the fastest growing population, Somerset, Star Prairie, and that corridor because of the St. Croix River crossing, and that's sustained by the housing starts the last couple of years. The reason in the paperwork in our packet for wanting to have the County Highway K section is because people want to cross, and Robbie just said this, cross State Highway 64 Coming back on July 3rd here, a few days ago, my wife and I tried to turn left across Highway T, to get on Highway T, across Highway 64. We waited about 4 or 5 minutes to make that left-hand turn, and because of the traffic, decided to continue on down Highway 64 and turn at the stoplight in Richmond, rather than go down Highway T so that we could come along Highway K, which is our preferred route. The traffic is just that heavy. In order to have safe crossings for ATV, UTVs across that highway, I suggest that they build a culvert, a tunnel underneath the freeway, the way that sometimes you see under busier roads like they have in St. Croix Falls for bicycles at Highway 8. There's safe ways that you can accommodate this, and there's probably more foolish ways of doing it, and I'm afraid that we may be traveling toward the latter here. So I'd ask you to support this amendment. I know these roads really well, and I think that the first inclination that our professionals had when they wanted to not do these particular two roads were more correct, and not give in to the pressure of the folks who just want to go play. Thank you.
Supervisor Telejohn?
I live 1.5 miles away from 170th, and there's cars going 60 miles an hour on that road in both directions, and it's not even a center line, no shoulders. County Road K doesn't have any shoulders really either, and it's a bike path. I can't understand that, but there's no paved shoulder really on County Road K. I agree with Mr. Hanson that I don't think it's safe for crossing. A lot of times, if I'm going to go on the north side in Richmond, I'll drive K all the way into Richmond and try to get on the north side instead of turning onto Highway 64 on off of 170th because of the traffic, and especially in the morning, commuters, and coming home at night, 5 o'clock, and then weekends it just doubles. So it's not good. I support this amendment also.
Supervisor Burning?
Can we get Robbie to come back up?
I think we can arrange that.
Thanks, Robbie. So hearing the concerns that you've heard, do you agree with those concerns regarding safety?
Absolutely, all the concerns are valid. We balance that versus risk of the trail. So, we get a number of these applications every year that we deny, and we consider them based on their merits. Especially in the case of accident rate, 170 doesn't, or 170, K between 170 and 170 does not have a high accident rate. Its volume was below what our normal standards were. That's why we recommended approval. We came to the conclusion. M is a tougher issue for me because right now I don't believe the sheriff has the enforcement capacity to enforce it. So I think ATVs, UTVs are already using it. I know they are. We get complaints up there already. So, and with Star Prairie being open, it creates this really narrow gap where we have to do something to cover it. I'm not saying it's an optimal approach. I do agree that the ATV, UTV issue is new. We had 2 fatalities on our system last year with ATV, UTV use. County Highway 8 wasn't open for that travel, but it was being used. These things happen and they're going to occur more. And I would agree this is a state issue that is not going away. When you talk to all our neighbors, they're all fighting the same problems. For us, it's compounded with traffic volume. So as that traffic volume starts to approach 1,000 to 2,000 is when you'll see me start to pull back and say, I don't believe this is a good use, a good compatible use of the system.
So a follow-up question too is, have you received pressure from outside groups to open these up, as was stated here today?
There isn't a county in Wisconsin that hasn't received pressure to open system routes. I mean, it's a push-pull that's going on across the state of Wisconsin right now, and other states.
Yep. Okay, so are there things that those clubs and those outside groups can do to help fund or make that road better for the future and work with the counties and or towns to make those roads safer? For instance, instead of, I think a culvert culvert tunnel was mentioned. is it possible for them to maybe fundraise and help pay to build those types of structures to make them more safe at major crossings? Is that possible?
Sure. So there are grants available through the DNR and that for those types of crossings, the traditional snowmobile program. They're competitive grants. What I can tell you is our process, how our policy works now, is that it has to be approved by the local government. So these towns have to recommend approval of these routes within their jurisdictions. They come to the county. If we recommend approval, we control the signage. We bill the local municipality for the signage necessary to ensure this road gets in place. So when we wrote the policy, we didn't want costs coming back on the county system. Now the towns have a different authority. They can work with the ATV UT Club. They can give them the bill and say, you have to pay this if you want this route open. We don't have that authority, so that's why the policy sets up the way it is. I'm going to be fully honest. The hard part about these ATV UTV trails is the laws. So right now, a 12-year-old can operate an ATV on the public system. So a 12-year-old on a full-size ATV UTV is problematic. They do not make traffic-related decisions, so that's one of the concerns. The drunken driving laws in Wisconsin, it's a $375 municipal citation. It does not account against your driver's license. So it's also a different thing. I can tell you that open container are allowed on ATV, UTVs on the system. So there's specific laws for
like
ATV
on our county highway system?
in the state of Wisconsin.
Well,
So our local ordinance prevents that, but what happens is if they turn on a town road, does the town have an ordinance preventing that? So right now, there's no state law not allowing open containers of alcohol on the system with ATV, UTV use. So
Okay.
there's challenges. So let's not run away from the challenges, but we're trying to find is a blend of the system.
And
that
then
works for everybody.
when you're looking at reviewing these, like, what's that process look like? Let's say a year from now, or I don't know what that looks like. So could you explain how that works?
Are you talking review of new applications or review of an existing system?
Existing, I'm sorry.
So what we do is we log any complaints we get. We coordinate with the sheriff if there's any citations or anything issued. We would note that, and then we review the accident rate, any accidents involving ATV, UTV, and then damage to the right-of-way. Any damage that's required for us to repair, we would note that when reviewing the application. So we do look at each of these annually. We haven't had a lot of issues. A lot of the ones that are approved are on very low-volume county highways.
Supervisor Rambert?
Thank you, Chair. Has the ATV groups explored off-road routes on the neighboring landowners, for instance, when they had their application?
I can't say for sure in these two applications. I know other ones that we have denied. They are trying to work with local landowners. The ATV, UTVs have a harder use than snowmobilers in that when they want to use the trail system, whether it's agriculture or other uses, are always not compatible.
Supervisor Hanson?
I wanted to say that I didn't mean to sound very, very negative about the people who use these ATVs and UTVs. It is a culture of recreation versus the people who are already on the road who are using it in a culture of transportation, needing to get from A to B. So, and I think Robbie touched on that, just so you understand that that's the difference. We're having a good time, and that's the whole purpose and nature of having an ATV or a UTV is having fun. And that may not be consistent with the purpose of the county highway. And that's my attitude when I say we need to protect the public safety. That's why we have the committees that we have for public safety and emergency preparedness. It's not necessarily consistent use.
Other questions? Yes, Supervisor Carlson.
Thank you, Chairman. If we deny the use to the ATV, UTVs, does it have an effect on tourism dollars? Are there businesses affected that will prosper if the ATVs are available? Or, you see my question? What's the economic impact of actually not allowing them?
That's outside of my realm of expertise. What I would tell you is that no matter what happens here on M, M in particular, I'm going to go back and try to work with Polk County on, we've already had an initial conversation. There's town roads north of there. Could we work with Polk and say, not allow ATV use past this point? So we're picking them off on a town road, bringing them into Star Prairie on a different route. That's something I'm going to work on, but for the short term, this is like I said, a pragmatic approach. As far as use of, recreational funds, I couldn't comment to that. A lot of our system is open. The town roads have a lot of access. So that's where we'd always argue that the county highways are a last resort. We want them on county highways as of last resort.
Supervisor Cook?
So Robbie, can I just ask a clarifying question? In my notes, basically, I have down that you're suggesting that by these two K and M, adding signage will make it easier for you to manage? Is that what you're saying, or?
So the signs aren't for ATV, UTVers. They're actually for the drivers to notify that you could potentially come in contact with an ATV, UTV on this route. So that's what the signs are for. So I know it's counterintuitive, but it's not necessarily for those. So it's for protection of the driver as much as anything.
Okay.
Other questions? Supervisor Barkalow.
Thank you, Chair. Robbie, you mentioned traffic deaths or ATV, UTV deaths. There was, I think you said 2 last year. How is that consistent with prior years? Is there more or less?
In my 5 years, I don't believe we've had other on-road. I would have to check that. We have that data, so I wouldn't want to comment. But to my knowledge, I don't believe there were any other ATV, UTV deaths on the public system as far as that.
Okay.
There is a report that the DNR keeps and is available on their website as far as fatalities. That's available, that I could make available to the group.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Supervisor Telejohn.
I don't like, I dread bicycles being on Highway K, let alone a wider ATV. And I don't think it's and 170th, it is not a safe route whatsoever, in my opinion. I'll stand by that. There's no shoulders.
Supervisor Hanson?
I recognize that you're indulging me here, and I'll be very brief. If you vote to take these 2 off, maintain that you're still allowing for 6 additional routes that didn't exist before this vote. So it's not that you're not taking away the chance to add routes completely. We're still adding 6 new routes to the system, 6 new county highways that ATV, UTVs can use. We're just removing 2. So that's something to bear in mind.
If I may, those are actually approved already. So the additional 2 are the 2 being considered tonight. The previous ones were considered and approved at in previous years.
So just for clarification, Supervisor Hanson, the underlining is what we are adding. Otherwise, the other sections of Chapter 79, A through F, are already part of the ordinance.
Other, Supervisor Shirley.
There are 2 others that are marked for Town of Star Prairie, and you mentioned that Highway M coming in is the issue. Is there a connecting road in one of these other ones that connects into Town of Star Prairie that gives them access without that?
So the Town of Star Prairie has a couple routes. The 2 other routes that are approved are what I would call offset intersections, like 100 and some feet, where the town road intersection comes over, it kicks over. So we approved those routes as short so they could continue on the town system. There is a town road available north on M into Polk County, but unless Polk County agrees with our potential solution, what happens is they get to the county line on M, there's nowhere to go. So they either turn around and go back, but if they're trying to get into Star Prairie, They just don't do that. They continue on and go into the town of Star Prairie, or the village of Star Prairie.
Further discussion? I think we're ready to vote. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Supervisor Barkalow.
Thank you, Chair. Just one last question. So we're literally talking about approving a half a mile each on these two paths, these two annexations that we're talking about, correct?
Correct. Our policy is clear that it's not meant for wholesale. If you read the policy, which is also attached, it's not meant for wholesale approval of county highways. It's meant for trailer route connections or to provide access in a place where there's other limiting factors.
So they would get on and then they would get off County M and County K.
Well, that would be the hope.
Yeah.
Other questions, discussion? Supervisor Van Summeren.
Thank you, Chair. I think Robbie said it all a moment ago when someone asked what happens when they come to this stop sign. They don't necessarily stop. They're going to be driving on roads that have no signage to warn drivers. They're still going to drive on them. They just will have no signs out there to protect them. We have other situations more in our part of the county than here, and we have the Amish issue, which puts very slow equipment on highways that are traveled with very fast vehicles, and they're allowed. And here we have something that there aren't as many of these four-wheelers that I see on these sections of road, by Robbie's admission, at least on the County K one, that probably are going to make a whole lot of difference. And whatever we decide may not make a difference to the driver of that ATV.
One last comment, Supervisor Hanson?
Well, this is actually two. If we, I understand the argument that if they're coming down anyway. However, if we go ahead and make this an ATV route, that gives Polk County the opportunity to advertise that and put it in their ATV map, and that it becomes a published route. And that's going to attract more traffic potentially than as if it's not a published route. And the people who may come there, who come anyway, they're not coming because it's published. It's not that we're inviting them. But if we publish it as a published route, you're going to have that much more traffic. It'll be in brochures and maps or whatever. I mean, Polk County is so much more organized tourism-wise than we are. They have brochures in a rack in an actual building, Polk County Tourism Bureau. So the other thing I have to say is that I misunderstood what this is. I made an amendment which nullifies the entire main motion. So is there a way that we can make that, reverse that without?
Good point. I thought about that.
That's a point of order. I have a point of order. Yeah. My amendment is moot because it actually, how do we handle that?
That's what we were just discussing. So the motion is on the floor. If it passes, then the main motion is moot because that is the only modification to this ordinance. So you can address the motion to admit lines 29 through 33, seconded by Supervisor Teljohn. If that passes, then the main motion is moot because there's no other modifications to this ordinance.
Okay, so I think we're ready to vote on the amendment then to eliminate those.
Don't vote yet. We need to get the motion in, please.
Teljohn.
To eliminate those lines from the resolution.
Oh, now you're
Uh-oh.
on.
Uh-oh.
Please don't leave.
Oh, I don't know how we can change that.
So while we wait, just to clarify, so it's Supervisor Hanson's motion to omit lines 29 through 33. That's what you're voting on.
I can't get these people back.
Waiting for the absentees to come back.
I don't know if I can get them to come back on here.
You might want to cancel the vote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you cancel the whole thing?
Yeah.
There we go. Shredded. All controlled delete points.
What's your question?
Can we just clarify? Can we clarify what we're voting yea or nay for?
Yes, I can clarify for you. So the motion by Supervisor Hanson is to omit lines 29 through 33, basically to omit those two trails from the ordinance. And so basically declining those trails going forward. That's what you're voting, yea to omit, nay not to omit. I hope that. Does that clarify it, or is that more confusing?
About clear as mud, but yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is only going back to roll call to the very beginning.
Yeah, might have to redo the roll call. That's happened
Yeah.
before.
Okay.
Christine, we'll figure something out to punish the 5 that did that.
Okay. Now we'll have to do roll call again and then start over.
Just want to make sure you're all still here.
Oh, sorry, the thing's over there.
Come on. Yep, we're not moving.
So we can just switch to voice votes?
Okay.
Are you asking for that?
Yes.
We'll do a roll call vote.
So just call their names off?
Okay. Lisa Lind,
No.
Sean Anderson,
No.
Bob Long,
No.
Kathy Leaf,
Yes.
Carol Cook,
No?
Paul Adams,
No.
Paul Burning,
No.
Rick Attino,
No.
Bob Fiedler,
No.
Dave Osnes. No. Scott Counter,
No. No.
Dan Hansen,
Yes.
Ryan Shirley,
No.
Greg Telejohn,
Yes.
Mark Carlson,
No.
Mike Barkalow,
No.
Bob Swanepoel,
No.
Jerry Van Summeren,
No.
and Tim Ramberg.
No.
Sixteen to 3.
Okay, so the amendment fails. So now we can go back to the original motion to approve the resolution, including those lines. So we have a motion and a second, so I think we're ready to vote on that resolution. Should we try this again, or do you want to
I
do
don't
roll
think
call?
it'll work.
Okay, we're going to do, yeah.
Okay.
Would,
You can do by voice vote or roll call vote.
I think let's try a voice vote. I think that would probably be appropriate at this point. So all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
We get just a show of hands on that, so Christine makes sure she has the right names for the no votes.
For the no votes? Four. Okay, thank you. That passes. So let's move on to our next business item. The resolution to request state revise the current real estate transfer fees revenue sharing formula. This came from Community Development, Supervisor Hanson. Or, I'm sorry, can I have a motion, please? Motion
make
to
a
approve
motion.
Supervisor Hanson, second.
Second.
Supervisor Telejohn, thank you. Supervisor Hanson.
Thank you. What this is I'm trying to get it up here so I can make sure I get this right. I was hoping that Beth was here, but no. The real estate transfer fee is, what's the percentage? Ken, do you remember? No.
Currently 80%.
80% of the real estate transfer fee goes to the state. In the 1980s, and I don't remember the exact year, it had been a lot more, had come to the county. And the state decided they wanted more, so they cut us back. And what we want to do is just ask the state government to send more of the real estate transfer fee back to the counties. This is a resolution which has been forwarded by other counties to the Wisconsin Counties Association. We're late getting it into the WCA. However, our resolution would have a letter sent to the legislature asking in a support of the WCA measure, and it's something that I recommend. Beth Pabst is fully in support of it, and I'd ask you to vote for it. It would mean, if we had done it over the last couple of years, we would have had $3 million more in St. Croix County, so it's worth doing.
Questions, discussion? Easy one. Okay, sorry, go ahead, Supervisor Connor.
Just wanted to add on to what Supervisor Hanson was saying. When the treasurer came up and talked with our committee, one of the things she mentioned was that, for one thing, all the collections are done at St. Croix County. They are responsible to take in all the collections, they take in all the funds, and then they draft a check to the state. I believe you were right, it was about 1986 that they switched to going to 80% going to the state and 20% remaining in the county. Before that, it was 50-50. And so what we're requesting is to go back to the 50-50 because, and part of the language in it is that the state is seeing a surplus and we don't have that particular issue at county level. So we would like to see the cost sharing be more fair the way it was originally set up and go back to the 50-50, and it would be a big benefit for St. Croix County.
Other questions, discussion? All right, seeing none, I think let's try a voice vote on the motion. All those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to our third business item, the resolution dissolving the Transit Commission. Do I have a motion for the resolution? Supervisor Barklow. And a second, Supervisor Otino. Supervisor Otino, could you give us some background on this, please?
Yes, this come up as a item for future discussion, and when we went over it, found that there was really only 2 meetings in the past year, and there really is no budget to go forward with this kind of investment. Once we spent the $80 million on the new building, I think that took a lot of the potential for this kind of a project to go forward. And that's why we decided just to ask that the Transit Commission be dissolved. Thank you.
Questions, other discussion? Supervisor Telejohn.
So we're not going to have any transit capability in St. Croix County for the people who can't have public transportation to jobs, to doctor's appointments, to school to classes is like we've been talking about for a few years? Is that what this means? It's not part of our directive anymore?
I think to your point, Supervisor Talajon, we do have transportation that the county provides through Veteran Services. We have transportation that we provide through ADRC to specialized population groups. What it does mean is that we're not pursuing a county-wide transit system to serve some of the other groups that you did mention. And so it is we are limiting our transportation issues just to those special groups.
Other discussions? Supervisor Cook?
So I guess my impression of the transit subcommittee or the transit commission would be not necessarily for the St. Croix County to build and run a transit system, but to have a place for us to discuss possible collaboration with other entities in the county or cross county or things like that. So when I saw this on the agenda, I felt like it's a loss for us because it doesn't have, there's not any kind of focus at all or support for the idea of conversation with other entities. I'm not saying that we should necessarily provide that transportation. I don't know that yet, but I feel like there's still value in this commission, and I would support retaining it.
Supervisor Anderson?
I can appreciate Supervisor Cook's comments, but when the commission only met twice in the last year, it's not really going to do any of the kind of stuff that was mentioned, because they're not really are showing initiative to really reach out to other entities, if that's what the commission, and if that's all they feel empowered to do, then I don't think it should exist if it really doesn't meet.
Supervisor Leaf?
I think transportation in this county is a huge problem, and I agree with Supervisor Cook's assessment that it would be a loss for our county. I think that's an issue that we need to explore, and if the committee hasn't met, then that's on them. I think maybe we change the faces on the committee so that we start with people that maybe have the initiative to bring people together. Just a thought.
Supervisor Osnes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think one of the things we need to look at is we've taken a long time, as I've served on the subcommittee and I've served on the commission as well. One of the reasons why we've had problems the last couple of years with COVID, and we've ended up with 3 or 4 folks when we normally meet who couldn't be there. But that has not stopped the rest of us. We've talked with the town, we've talked with towns, we've had, if you folks want to look at some of the information that I left you, we've had, I don't even know where to start, to tell you the truth. We know where folks go to work. We know that we've got 120 cars that go over the Hudson Bridge every day. We know where we've got parking rides. We've been working with the state of Minnesota. We're going to be coming as far as Lake Elmo. We were trying to work on a possibility to have them come at least to the parking ride at the Stillwater Bridge and bring a bus over as far as one of the parking rides here in Hudson, so we can get some folks on the buses that way. We've had businesses that have said, you know, we've got folks that cannot get here. We need to find a way to get them here to work. We've talked with the Hudson Chamber. We've talked with the New Richmond Chamber. Their concern is also that they've got folks in different communities, but they don't have funding or a vehicle to get there with that. One of the things that we looked at with the commission was the county is going to stay out of the cities. It's up to the cities to find their own transportation. One of the things we've looked at is if you need folks to get from River Falls, say, to New Richmond or New Richmond to Hudson, if they need that to get to work to help them out, we could find a way to do that. Same way with doctors. I've looked at I've talked with the rideshare folks in both New Richmond and River Falls. They both only have 2 vans, and they both have said, you know, if we take one van and start taking folks to a different city, which we know that there's an issue, we're going to be short in our own communities. So I said, well, what would happen if we could find a way to buy, or to find low income, or used, I should say, vehicles to start with. And there's a couple of companies that we had been looking at that we may be able to even, they'd let us use a couple of their vehicles to see if it would work, which I think is great. Both of them said, we've got a dispatcher here through Running Inc., so you wouldn't have to worry about a dispatcher. You could leave that vehicle here. You don't have to worry about a dispatcher. We'll put the radios in the vehicles. We'll give them the extra phones that they need. They take care of the majority of the expenses. So there would be low cost, and if we could get some, you know, one of the things that I've talked with is with Amy from the ADRC, and some of the vehicles that we've got that are sitting there that can't be sold, I said, can we use one of those and put it in a couple of spots and see if it works? You know, we could use it as a trial basis at very little cost to the county, but we're getting folks to where they need to go. They're getting to work, we're getting them to a doctor. You know, I could keep on going. You know, we've got a couple of express personnel and Simply Staffing have come to some of our meetings, and they said, you know, we could give out 20 different vouchers in here, you can start tomorrow, and they said 50% of those folks don't have a driver's license. And how do they get to work? And part of that is we want to get to work so I can buy myself a car and finally be myself again. And if that includes going from one community to another, I think helping them out that way. You know, we've got folks that, I know 3 folks in River Falls that have lost their leg below the right leg below the knee. They can't drive. That's not their fault. But unfortunately, they either go to the doctor in Hudson or they go to the doctor in New Richmond, and they say, how do we get there? We're having a hard time getting there. And I think those are some of the folks we need to serve as well. And I think we can make it work. But I don't think we need to go down and start providing a door-to-door service either. That was never our intention to do that. And I'll let that go.
Supervisor Fiedler.
This is for the administrator. This resolution gets rid of the Transit Commission, but the issue is still out there. If the Transit Commission goes away, how will we handle the issue in the future? Will it be referred to the Transportation Committee or such ad hoc committee, or will there be other opportunities for its further consideration?
Yeah, the Transit Commission was a subset of the Transportation Committee. So some of the issues could still potentially be dealt with by our Transportation Committee. The Transit Commission was really created to take advantage of federal or state grant opportunities that were available. And that was one of the main reasons that it was created. But if we're looking at just, as Supervisor Cook had suggested, you know, agreements between municipalities, and it's not federal money coming into the county, the Transit Commission would not be necessary for that part or that idea.
Supervisor Telejohn?
I don't know if anybody's read their Wisconsin County Association magazine this month, but there's a lot of solutions that other counties in the state are how they're addressing transportation and transit. Door County, it's kind of a unique situation, but I advise you to read your magazine if you haven't yet. There's some good information in there. I'm almost tempted to postpone this vote, but I don't know.
Didn't sound like a motion. Supervisor O'Connor.
This is more in line with a question, which is related with it. I know that St. Croix County had been working in the past with a rail system that was going from Eau Claire to the cities and passing through St. Croix County. And part of the deal was that, not proposing that I'm totally in favor of that, but we do need to be aware of what's going on and have representation, is I guess the concern with that. And is this part of what that commission was doing? And if so, how will we address that issue?
Rail was set up as a separate item, and our highway commissioner was appointed as our contact person on that railway project. Robbie loves that job.
Supervisor Osnes.
And just to let supervisors know, when the subcommittee was formed and when the commission was formed, we had the agreement right from the get-go that if there were going to be any cost that we could see, it was going to come before the Transportation Committee, and for them to vote to see if it was worthwhile, and then if it passed, that would have to come back to the county board as well with the same type of resolution. So it's just that we do not have the authority to just go out and spend. It does go back to transportation, and it does come back to county board if there is any money being spent.
Supervisor Cook.
Just a quick follow-up, following Administrator Witt's comment about the federal and state funding. It convinces me that I think it's even more of a bad time to get rid of this commission. We just had an infrastructure bill passed last year that there's a bunch of federal money for infrastructure, and so we should be having the conversations, and I think this Transit Commission provides an opportunity for us to do so. So I would urge others to vote against this resolution.
Other discussion? Okay, I think we're ready to vote. Can't use our handy little things, so I think we should do a roll call vote on this. Be most appropriate.
What are we voting on specifically?
I can clarify. So the motion is to pass the resolution to dissolve the Transit Commission. So if you vote yes, that's for dissolving it. No, not to dissolve it.
Supervisor Lind?
Yes.
Supervisor Anderson?
Yes.
Supervisor Long?
Yes.
Supervisor Leaf?
No.
Supervisor Cook?
No.
Adams?
Yes.
Supervisor Burning?
Yes.
Attino?
Yes.
Fiedler?
Yes.
Osnes? Counter?
Yes.
Hanson?
No.
Shirley?
Yes.
Telejohn?
No.
Carlson?
Yes.
Barkalow?
Yes.
Swainpool?
No.
Van Summeren?
Yes.
And Ramberg?
Yes.
Not sure what that final count.
13.
Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
13 to 6.
13 to 6, the resolution passes. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to number 4, a resolution to support reallocation of American Rescue Plan Act funds. I believe this, can I have a motion, please, for the resolution? Supervisor Telejohn?
I make a motion to approve the resolution to support reallocation of American Rescue Plan funds.
And a second, Supervisor Anderson? Discussion, could we have a little background, Supervisor Telejohn, please?
I think I'll defer to people in the audience that have better knowledge of it.
Good evening, Supervisors. This effort is to reallocate some of the funds that were approved by the board last year for HHS towards supporting community providers. I looked at the total allocation to us, it was about $100,000. And I don't anticipate that we're going to spend all of that on supporting community partners. So I talked with Phil Landgraf, our Veteran Services Director, and asked if they could use funding to support veterans and to support infrastructure needs like technology, anything that's allowable under the American Rescue Plan Act for veterans. And that's where we ended up with this $30,000 figure, transferring some of that from our current project fund to Veteran Services for them to spend as they see fit.
Discussion, questions? Supervisor Osnes?
Yeah, Phil, could you come up and give us a little bit of an idea of some of the things that you're going to be looking at with that funding?
You bet. Thank you for the opportunity. We're going to be looking at some different options that are out there. UTV signage for veterans. No, I'm kidding. No, we're not going to do that. Too soon. Yeah, I'm sorry. Lighthearted here. But in reality, though, we are kind of going to be looking towards some ability to find those veterans who are out there. So we're going to be doing some outreach with that. We've already started trying to do a little bit at the DMV for veterans, trying to get them aware of our offices. We kind of came up with a mental health symposium that they said that a lot of the individuals who were dying from suicide were actually out-of-towners, people that didn't necessarily grow here, kind of transplants to the area. So we thought, hey, this would be a great idea to try to meet these people where they are when they're going to try to get their driver's licenses and things like that. There's technology that could be improved. And then there's also a few other things that we would, again, I said this at the HHS board meeting, not going to be just spending it just to spend it. We would find where we could get the best bang for the buck to help the veterans in St. Croix County, and that's what we're doing. So that's one piece that we've already started that process. That's about it. So.
Supervisor Fiedler?
I'm going to vote yes on the amendment, and I want to compliment Bob Rorit and Phil for working together on this, understanding where we could use our money better, perhaps. And but I also want to raise an issue, just in 2 sentences, that I know that money has also been pulled from HHS that dealt with our courts and their ability to do certain things in treatment court. And it was done rather abruptly, I think, and I would hope that that same creativity that we've shown in this movement of funds can be shown by HHS as they relook at that issue, perhaps, and see if they have another very small amount of money, actually, but it's extremely important to the treatment court as they analyze proper candidates for continued work in that program.
Other questions, discussion?
Thank you.
I think we're ready to vote. Let's try a voice vote on this one. All those in favor of the resolution to reallocate the ARPA funds signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That passes unanimously. Okay, the last business item is the resolution approving the agreement with members of the Hudson Area Joint Library. I believe, if I'm correct, we do need a motion and a second to move this forward. Supervisor Cook?
Maybe you can help me with the appropriateness of this motion, but I would like to move that this gets sent back to Administration
We
Committee.
have to put it on the table first and then be a motion.
Put it
to
on
do
the
that.
table, okay.
So we need a motion and a second to approve the agreement. It brings it to the table for a vote, and then there could be a motion
Okay.
To table after that.
I'll make a motion to approve the agreement.
Thank you. Supervisor Burning, second. Now,
So fellow supervisors there, as you know, we talked about this last month and sent it back or postponed it for this meeting, but we had some additional information from WCA and Department of Revenue, so this needs to go back to Administration Committee for discussion and also likely for the discussion by the member partners.
Second.
So there's a motion to send this lovely item back to the admin committee in a second. Any discussion? I think a voice vote will suffice. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, now we're ready to move on to our annual department reports. What's that? Yeah, we're going to start with our county treasurer. Denise, you're on.
Mr. Chairman, could we entertain a 5-minute break?
Yeah, I was thinking about that myself. I think that's a good idea. Do you mind, Denise, if we take a quick extra 5 minutes? Thank you. All right, let's reconvene here and get rolling so we can go enjoy the evening. Denise, we'd love to hear from you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everybody. My submitted report in the packet is for 2021. I just wanted to add 2 points to that real quick. I'll be super brief. First, I did mention in there that delinquencies on property taxes are at least a 15-year low as of the year end. That continues through June of this year, too. But because we've collected a lot of delinquent taxes, or people have paid their delinquent taxes, that has affected my interest, or the interest and penalty revenues, and that's why the revenues are high for 2021. So just note that because the delinquencies are low, those revenues will probably go down, and then at least for the next couple of years in the treasurer budget. The second point I wanted to make real quick is the state launched its Wisconsin Help for Homeowners program in March of 2022. That is, if you don't know, that is a federally funded pot of money. It's $92 million available to property owners who were negatively affected by COVID and are negatively financially affected by COVID. And it offers help for delinquent mortgage payments, delinquent property tax payments, or utilities. Adam helped us design a flyer that we inserted with our April delinquency notices, and we sent that out to just the individual property owners, not businesses. And to date, we've received 4 payments from that program, totaling about $37,000. Because our delinquencies aren't very low, are low, we don't have probably a real high need for that, but I would expect that we'll receive a few more payments too on that program. So with that, I can take any questions you might have.
Supervisor Carlson.
This is just my ignorance, probably quick to answer, but I see budgeted expenses, budgeted revenues. What is a budgeted tax levy?
So that's the amount of the county levy that's allocated for our department. So it's the revenues minus the expenses. Ken, am I explaining that right? So ours is negative because our revenues are actually higher than our expenses.
And I'll address why it would be negative. So we look at the plus and minus of every single department in the county, and there's only 3 departments that generate more revenues than they have for expenses. So they don't need any tax levy dollars to support that department, but they don't get to keep the extra money either. So I give them a negative amount and I take that money out of their department and use it elsewhere.
Any other questions? Thank you, Denise.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to our county clerk, Christine.
Hello, everyone. So as you all know, I was not here in 2021, but I do have my report in your packet. There are some couple little things, I'll be really brief, that I just wanted to highlight. 2021 achievements, there were 2 elections in 2021, a spring primary and a spring election. And we still today are constantly getting open records requests. So that's something that was going on in 2021 for the 2020 general election. And now continuing with the spring election, we get inundated with open records requests still today. But hopefully that'll taper off a little bit. Other things, during COVID, the county clerk's office started to require appointments for issuing certain things, and that seems to work with workflow really well. So we're going to keep that in place going forward. Things about the budget that I wanted to point out. You might notice in the elections the differences between the approved 2021 budget and the approved 2022 budget. They're very much different, but that is in light of how many elections there are in 2022. If some of you don't know, there's be more elections in 2022, so the budget is a little bit increased. Accomplishments in 2022, in 2021, you could just see the great increases in marriage licenses, passport applications from the prior year because of COVID. Everything's bouncing back with COVID, and some of them are even above 2019 numbers prior to COVID. And then our goals and objectives that we have listed down for our department. I want to successfully administer my 2 first elections here as the county clerk for St. Croix County. And those will be the primary coming up in August and the general election in November. My big one is to get a little bit better versed at roll call pro and bigger cookies. But otherwise, everything else there is listed. So any questions?
Questions, Supervisor Anderson?
Yeah, what is the law change going into effect on, that went into effect on July 1st? I'm just curious, on marriage licenses.
Sure. It used to be that to be able to get a marriage license in St. Croix County, you had to either live in St. Croix County for 30 days or if you didn't live in St. Croix County, you would apply to get your marriage license in the county where you were getting married. That is all changed of July 1st. Anyone from anywhere can apply at any county clerk's office for any marriage ceremony in the state. So you have someone from Minnesota was getting married in Door County, they would have to go to Door County to get their marriage license. Now they just need to come to Hudson. So we're expecting an increase in our marriage licenses with that change. And we've already gotten calls, we've already had appointments being made. So that's what that is. Any other questions?
Okay, great. Thank you, Christine. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Missed a hand.
Thank you,
Summer.
Chair. Just a question. It talks about marriage license waiver. Is that a $10 credit, and can I apply for mine?
No question? Is that? No, you can't.
Okay, any other questions? All right, that's great. Thank you, Christine.
Thank you.
Okay, requests for future agenda items. Supervisor Telejohn.
Transportation and how we're going to address public transportation.
And I would suggest that that be forwarded to the Transportation Committee. Any other requests for future agenda items? Okay, County Clerk's report or correspondence?
No, I just want to let everyone know that I am going to do the registrations for the WCA. I think I do have 8 supervisors and Administrator Witt. So I don't think anybody else is interested in going. If you are, if you could just please let me know by tomorrow, that'd be great.
Announcements. Any other announcements? Oh, you have the same one I have? Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and announce it then. We're going to do the KIP Committee of the Whole in conjunction with our August board meeting. So what we will do is meet from 3 to 4:30, I think is what we were talked about regarding our capital improvement projects. And then we'll have a short break, plenty of snacks, and then we will resume our normal board meeting at 5 o'clock. So you can get that on your calendar. Otherwise, I wanted to thank everyone for all your gift cards. My wife was very appreciative. Now I got blank stares. It was supposed to be a joke. Remember the email? Jeez. Never mind. Just kidding. Okay, any other announcements? Okay, Supervisor Cook.
Just a quick one. So at Administration Committee last month, we approved the creation of a broadband subcommittee. And I have not formed the committee yet, but if you are interested, everyone can't be on it, but if you're interested, if you can send me your name by the end of this week, that would be good. Thanks.
Okay, that's anything else? All right, 7:01, we're done, we're adjourned. Thank you.